So when someone comes and says, the satanic verses are quoted in a Tabari, I was like, okay, do you even know what a Tabari's collection is for?
AlMaghrib Institute presents Q&A with Kamal al-Mekki.
One of my mom's friends, she was arguing about something, and she was like, it's in the books of Hadith. I'm like, what book of Hadith are you referring to? This, statement that you're attributing it. It's like, it was in that book of Hadith, and it was by this scholar. I'm like, and I take a look at it, and I do some research, and I come back. I'm like, first of all, like these narratives, like a lot of them weren't even like authentic, but they're there for the purpose of documentation and collection. And I'm like, so why did he publish the book? I'm like, he didn't publish it for you.
Tarikh al-Tabari is a perfect example of that. Tarikh al-Tabari, Imam al-Tabari, rahimahullah, in the introduction says that I collected authentic and weak, not in those exact terms.
Yeah.
But he said actually stronger terms. He said, there are some narrations that I put in this book that the reader will find detestable. And he said, it's not my fault, but I collected it. Yeah. But he indicated in scholarly language, which is weak, which is authentic. And that is by placing the entire chain of narrations. But a layman doesn't know that when he reads...
These books are cataloging, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Easily.
Yeah, he's like Google.
And that's why it's always important when you get a book, like I'm talking about volumes of Islamic book, you read the introduction and the table of contents.
Yeah.
In the introduction, you understand what the author was trying to do. Imam Bukhari was trying to collect the cleanest and the most authentic hadith. Imam al-Tabari said, in the beginning, I am not collecting the cleanest. I'm giving you everything, but I'm labeling them in scholarly language.
So when someone comes and says, the satanic verses are quoted in a Tabari, I was like, okay, do you even know what a Tabari's collection is for?
Yeah, and they're labeled as what? Authentic? They're labeled as weak. But you couldn't see it because you don't know.
But they just put a Tabari between brackets, like this is the citation, like this is like
it's fascinating with like this whole example of like evidence labeling. I was in California one time, driving, going straight. Light was green for me, and some lady was, I guess, trying to turn left, and we collided. Right, car was a rental, got totaled. Her car was totaled. Whatever. Police
Hope you had full coverage.
I mean, yeah, it was her fault anyway. Right, so police come in, they do their police report, it goes in. And then a couple months later, I get a notice in the mail that I'm being sued by that lady, right? And I'm like, what the hell? Like, and so I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna go. And she wants to sue me in small claims court. She knew to keep it under 10,000. So I show up, and
in California.
This is in California. Like I had to fly right back from DC.
Wow.
And police report basically said that she was at fault, right? And so her argument was that there was a statement in the police report that said that because I guess the police officers interviewed some of the witnesses, and they said so and so passed like they were talking about me. I had passed a red light, but the police officer noted, but his testimony has been rejected because everybody else said that it was green. And so the judge is like, and the girl is saying, look, it says here that he passed a red light, so it's his fault, and therefore I shouldn't like whatever. And the judge was like, yeah, but the police officer said that statement has been rejected because of other witnesses corroborating his story. Right?
So he collected it, but at the same time he mentioned that it's weak.
Yeah.
But for her, it's like, it's in the report, so that's it.
That's where you're going. Very good. Very
nice.
Yes.
Fascinating thing is I get back, and then the insurance company's like, her insurance company is still fighting to collect the money.
Of course they are.
And I'm like, why? The judge ruled against it.
Yeah.
And he's like, do you have a document for it? Like, absolutely. Here's faxed it right away. And they're like, yeah, we're rejecting her insurance claim.
Wow.
You didn't countersue for the airplane tickets?
It's such a headache, man. It's such a headache. Like to do all that. Going back to your point is that I think people need to, like, how do you encourage this to people? But like, look, not all of these scholarly references, catalogs, are for
Shaykh was saying that they should read at least the introduction of the author, and I think that's a good practice to do. A lot of times people skip the introductions of books, even non-Islamic books.
Yeah,
absolutely.
They skip the introductions of books, and they're just like, let me just read. It was like, the author like spent some time writing the introduction.
Even if they didn't, the methodology of reading a book, if you take any college level English class, is to know, okay, who is this author in the sense of what time period did they live in? What was happening during that time period? What was their maybe bio, life story? And so you read this in that context.
You know, most of my notes for my AlMaghrib courses have an introduction, and it's a message for me to the students, in which I expose my philosophy in putting the course together, my teaching methodology and everything. in the beginning, my first course was Shahada, and I used to tell the volunteers, my condition was, as people sign up and as you hand them, you have to tell every single one of them, when you sit down, read the introduction. And I would start by saying, who read the introduction? And if very few hands go up, I would go through it, because this is my teaching philosophy. And it's important to understand that.
Yeah.
You know, it was also important for me to explain the teaching philosophy when we did Stories of the Prophets, because I got, in the beginning, I didn't get great feedback from the students, because they thought, this is not fiqh, this is not aqidah. We're going to sit back for 2 days and hear story after story.
Right.
They found themselves taking notes, getting into groups, doing this, doing that. They're like, and they would always say, like, we enjoyed it, but we thought we were just going to hear stories.
We thought it was going to be entertainment, but you had to, you
I'm
forced
like,
us to think.
Yeah, you didn't read the introduction. If you would have read it, you would know what to expect.